All right, what's up, everyone? Backlash officially in the books. Back here doing our reaction streams as we've tried to do after the recent WWE PLEs. And we're here to talk Backlash. What an interesting show that was from Lyon, France. And boy, the crowd made themselves certainly known, not just on Backlash, but at SmackDown as well. And we'll let some people jump in here before we start talking about the show. What a lot of interesting developments, as I said. The Bloodline has added a new member. Cody Rhodes, still your champion. Got new women's tag team champions with Asuka and Kairi Sane losing the belts to none other than Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill. Just we thought that was going to happen. So, yeah, that was one that certainly seemed like the most predictable, kind of title change. We knew there weren't going to be probably any other than that one on this card. So, not really surprised there with that. What's up, Juan? Good to talk to you again. Yeah, always appreciate you joining in, watching all the videos. Yeah, I appreciate your support. As always, yeah, hello as well. I know a lot of familiar faces here. As I said, guys, I'm sure you've watched some of the videos we've done over the past couple weeks. I have been under the weather for like almost 2 or 3 weeks now. Like, I'm just getting my voice. Like, I've tried to do some of these YouTube shorts and stuff to sort of keep you guys with some fun stuff for now. But, man, I am still struggling to get my voice back all the way. So, we're going to see how long we can do this reaction stream. But, yeah, same to you, Juan. Always appreciate the kind words and you joining in here on these reaction streams. And, yeah, always a fun time we have on these. So you guys hop on in. As always, leave your comments, give some thoughts. And, yeah, big show for WWE because these – I saw some people mention this, like moving these B-level PLEs, I guess you want to call them or whatever, outside the United States and doing these like within different countries has been one of the best decisions they've made because you see the crowd you got and all of that. I mean, that was tremendous. Again, they can take what looked like a card on paper we knew was not going to resemble like WrestleMania 40, right? I mean, you had to know there's going to be a little bit of that dip. There's no Reigns, there's no Rock, there's no Rollins, and so forth. But yeah, like I think moving these kind of shows where the card did not look great necessarily on paper when you compared it to WrestleMania and all that, man, the crowd just brought it up so much though. So yeah, like it was pretty tremendous, I think for sure. Yeah, hey, first time, yeah, I appreciate you watching in. Yeah, because we do these, we try to do some of the weekly shows live, but we don't always get to them, but we definitely do the pay-per-views, or PLEs, excuse me, my old school nature coming out. Match of the night, you guys weigh in the comments. I see some thoughts as well. On these, boy, that opener, the brawl with the Bloodline and Owens and Orton. I mean, that was wild. That was what, like the first 40 minutes of the show, something like that. I mean, that was quite a 40 minutes. But I mean, goodness, the Cody and AJ match was something where we said going in, right? The problem with the Cody and AJ match was really just a matter of you knew Cody was going to win. They had to find a way to make it good, and you knew it was going to be a good match. But, you know, they had to kind of give you something a little bit to sink your teeth into with AJ. And, I mean, it's AJ and Cody. First time ever. You knew they were going to deliver, and they did. So I could certainly make arguments for that. And also, I said that opener was tremendous. I really liked everything involved with that. We got the new Bloodline member, but it wasn't the one I thought it would be. Many of us thought it would be. It was Tanga Loa joining the group. We'll see when Jacob Fatu makes his appearance, but we'll talk about that, I'm sure, over the next little while and everything. So, yeah, I was curious how they would structure it, but I think this was something where, you know, Cody's first title defense, they really wanted this to, you know, Cody's still the biggest star, and I think, you know, had you had a Roman, something like that involved, maybe, but I just think Cody is just he's red hot right now, and I think it was smart probably to kind of bookend it and do it that way, where if you were going to do it this way, put the Bloodline first and then do Cody at the end, rather than trying to put, you know, the Bloodline or something in the middle of the show somewhere. I think it was great how they did it because, you know, then by the time you get to Cody, kind of out of your mind and all of that. But yeah, like that was good stuff for sure. Uncle Howdy, yeah, I know a lot of people speculated maybe happening on this show. I think my guess is that's going to be like a Raw or SmackDown type thing. And it may not be. I mean, they've got plenty of opportunities, right? Think about all the shows they've got coming up. You guys know we've talked about this on some of the previous reaction streams. It's like, I mean, they've got the Saudi Arabia show coming up. They've got Clash at the Castle. You know, you've got Money in the Bank. You've got all these shows coming up in the next several months. But we've got to be getting closer to this Uncle Howdy thing, the way they're doing these teases now. So, yeah, I think it's coming on a Raw or SmackDown soon. but maybe they hold it off till Saudi Arabia, although I don't think it needs it. That's a King of the Ring show, so Queen of the Ring too. So I don't think it needs it there necessarily. But yeah, Cody AJ, that was a great match. Oh, so you were at WrestleMania 40. Oh, that's great. Yeah, we've had a couple people check in who were at the show when we did the reaction streams afterwards. So that's cool that you were there. I'm sure that was quite an experience, to say the least. So yeah, I agree with you, Cole. Good to talk to you as always. Yeah, give France or Royal Rumble, give them anything. Like with that kind of crowd, give them anything they want at this point, because that was electric. I know WWE uses the electric word a lot, but that was something. So yeah, it's something. So shout out to Travis. I appreciate you for the $1.99 super chat. Again, guys, you can leave your super chat if you like. I try to get to as many comments as I can. But this is also one of those shows that's kind of in the afternoon on a weekend here in the States. So it's like, there may not be as big of a crowd as we usually have for some of the post PLE live streams. Of course, we're not going to have as many for WrestleMania as we had there and all that. But do still appreciate the super chats, and you can send those in. They're just a nice donation to the channel. So I appreciate you guys, as always, sending in those. So appreciate it, Travis. Yeah, Cody's just, there's no one on Cody's level right now in terms. I mean, look, this is like the business related stuff, but I mean, you see like all the, I think it was Brandon Thurston or whatever put out the WrestleNomics stuff on like WWE ticket sales increases, like with Cody, like as kind of your premier guy over the past however long you want to put that range at. It's just been unreal. Like, I mean, the ticket price, and of course they said on this one, which keep in mind, the prices for tickets for the show were pretty high, I think, for most people. If I was, looking at the show and say, I think they averaged it out to like, this was the highest grossing WWE arena show ever. So I think they said on Twitter, people were averaging out, it's like $300 a ticket or whatever it was, which if anyone was there and you're joining in on the stream, you can let me know how much money you paid for the ticket. But like that just shows you how much money people are willing to pay to see Cody right now as the top attraction. And so, yeah, it's pretty ridiculous what he's been able to do. So, yeah, Travis, I thought it was a great show too. I mean, these are the ones that, like I said, I think moving these to the different location, that has really helped so much for these kind of shows, knowing that it's not WrestleMania, it's not the Royal Rumble, SummerSlam, so forth, but like it makes these shows feel so much more special and must see just because the crowd is kind of part of it. And we saw that on SmackDown last night. I mean, my goodness, like you knew when you saw what they were bringing to SmackDown last night, they were going to bring it for Backlash. So yeah, it was something. So, yeah, I mean, the Cody Cutters, it's always a challenge because they showed the replay on it too, I think, afterwards. And it's like, man, if you don't hit that just perfectly right, like that can be a tough one. And, it doesn't compare to the one with Carmelo and all that, but like it is kind of something where you kind of saw AJ had to take his body and kind of crumble a little bit there to make sure he got that one. But that's always a tough one, I think, to get the timing perfect on those. You've got to have your distance just right. Like it's got to be perfect to be able to do that. So, well, hey, I appreciate that. I, as I always say, if you are joining for the first time, like you and others probably are with this, I mean, I just enjoy talking wrestling. I don't do much more than that. Like it's just, I enjoy talking about it. I try to be optimistic about things. I don't just, hit the record button and do videos where I tell you everything's terrible. I try to find the bright spots in certain things, and it's easier these days in WWE too, right? Like it's easier to be more optimistic because this isn't what it was towards the end of the Vince era. There's a lot more reason to be excited about things based on where things are. So yeah, we have some fun with it. Try to make predictions for storylines and all that. That's just what I've always enjoyed as a fan. So yeah, so we have a lot of fun for sure. So yeah, that's right. You were there for the Undertaker appearance, so I'm sure that was when the gong hit. Look out. So that was quite something. So yeah, it's official now. You guys know I said it initially when they started the We Want Roman chants. That was right after WrestleMania, right? That was on the Raw after WrestleMania. I said they're going to keep these chants going. And, we saw it last night with Heyman in the segment he had with Orton and Owens. The We Want Roman chants. And you even had Heyman say, you have no idea how much, I want Roman right now. And so they're definitely setting this up. But look, we did get a little bit of a twist here. Like I said, this was not the new Bloodline member we were expecting as they snag up Tanga Loa here. to join his brother Tanga. So now we do know, though, we were trying to figure out the tag team. How are they going to sort it out? If we were like, if it's Jacob Fatu, Solo, and Tonga, we're like, well, who's going to be the two that are teaming up to face the Usos? Because we know the Usos are going to reunite. That's got to happen at some point. But now it's very clear that you're going to get that Usos versus Tanga, Tanga Loa, the Guerrillas of Destiny. That's your tag team, match whenever they decide to do it. So it makes sense why they would do it that way. But the Jacob Fatu thing's still interesting now, because now we got to figure out, all right, I've seen some people saying, is he going to join Roman? I just don't think that. I think Jacob Fatu's got to be full-on heel, just savage. Like, I don't think he's coming in to get cheered. I think he's coming in to destroy everything. So, you figure out the numbers too. And keep in mind, we joke about this, but like, I'm serious when I say this. They could run this Bloodline story for the next 50 years with all the Bloodline people they could connect to this thing. They could run this thing for the next, however long you want to do it. So they're never going to run out of Bloodline members. That's the running joke, I guess, now. So everybody's like, how many more are there? Trust me, there's a lot more out there. So they can keep this thing running for a while. But we'll see what happens with Jacob Fatu whenever he decides to come in. So it was like a soccer match. That's how it felt like, the main event especially. I mean, it was just, everyone was all in on it. I mean, they were fully invested in everything that's going on, for sure. So, all right, so what else we need to get to here? Again, guys, be sure to, if you're jumping in just now, leave your comments, thoughts on the show. Anything else you want to discuss, I will get to the comments. Sometimes it'll be a few minutes behind and all that, just kind of catching up, trying to get to as many of these as I can. But, yeah, the Judgment Day dynamic, good to see you again as well. Everything has history. Also a regular here on the streams. But, yeah, the Judgment Day thing is interesting because I think it does seem like Priest just hates JD. I mean, JD's always felt like the one that just everyone – wants to kind of push to the side ever since he's joined or not joined or whatever. Because I think I told you guys what I thought. Whenever they put the title on Priest, I'm like, well, they got to get to Priest and Balor at some point. You're probably going to do a world title match between Priest and Balor. And my guess is maybe that's where, okay, Priest beats Balor somehow, some way. And then maybe that's where Balor, JD, whoever else kind of turn on Priest after that. And you get the full falling out of Judgment Day. And remember, Rhea's out of the picture now for a while. So it's almost similar to the Bloodline, where it's like, you have kind of this rogue group that's kind of going off script, which is basically what Priest is trying to say right now, right? Like, he thinks that Balor and JD aren't doing things that they should be doing. He doesn't want them, doing the extra attacks on Jey Uso and all that. So it does feel kind of similar to what's going on with the Bloodline. And then, Priest becomes the babyface at some point. When Rhea comes back, we talked about this, she's going to get cheered like crazy because Liv's going to be the one she's probably going, and so I think it kind of seems like that's where they're going, but maybe they do Priest and Balor at, the King of the Ring show. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of options, but I think they've got to do that match before Priest loses the title because I feel like that's part of this whole thing. And then maybe that's where Balor costs him the title, whether that's against a McIntyre or someone like that. So, yeah, a lot of interesting options there for it. So, yeah, I mean, sums it up right here. Good crowd. Like, it was a great crowd. That was, I mean, look, I don't like to play the recency bias thing, but that was one of the best crowds I can remember in quite a while. Now, I know, like, go back to last year, Money in the Bank, London, all that. Like, and really, we could say this like about a lot of these sort of destination type shows where, they're doing these for crowds who have not had this kind of show either ever or in a long time. And you can see, like, just people are so amped up because they're finally getting one of these type shows. And so, yeah, that was okay. So Irish Sam. All right. Perfect. You were there. Wow. Unbelievable. So I remember you now saying, I think you said you were going to Backlash. So that was something, right? Like, you got to give me more. Like, I mean, what was that? Like, how did you guys pull that off? Because that was on screen. I can't even imagine. Like, we're all talking about it, watching it from afar, but being inside of that arena, my goodness, I can't even imagine what that was like. Here you go. So I'm going to follow up on your comments here. The crowd outside the arena singing, like, they're singing Orton's song. Okay. How about that? That was one of the best ones, too. Like, the singing of Orton's song, Jey Uso's entrance. Well, I mean, everything. Like, they were just on fire. You were part of that, Irish Sam. You were part of this thing. So, a legend here now in the Wrestling Reaction live streams because you were part of this whole history-making performance, I thought, from the crowd. So, yeah, like a football match, as someone said earlier. So, Yeah, for sure. That was that was something. So, yeah, WWE new era like this. This is the new era, like you can tell, and it's not like there's so many different things that they're doing differently now. Whether it's the presentation, like look, even like the setup, right, the stage and everything. Like Triple H said they were going to find ways to change up, how they made the stage and all this other stuff in the aisle to get as many fans in the building as they can. And it just gives you like a different look. And I think, fans were begging that for a long time. If you're an old school wrestling fan, it's like, you remember back in the day where every pay-per-view / PLE had a different entrance, had a different look, and all of this. And like you see now, it got for a while where just everything was the same. Everything looked the exact same. Didn't matter what show it was. Everything was the same. Well, now you see, like, look how different this looked compared to like a WrestleMania 40 and other shows like that, Elimination Chamber, right? And so I think that's what's cool is like each of these buildings, you have different sort of setups, and it makes it, kind of so unique to that particular show, and it makes it more memorable too. And so I think that's also been a big part of this. So, yep, Ken, I'm with you. That was a really good show. I really liked it. So, hey, the new Bloodline members. Again, it's going to be kind of a slow burn here, I think, because you got to get these guys over. They're trying with Tonga. I think they've done a good job so far, and this match will help him, I think, because even though he's the guy that feels secondary to Solo and even Heyman to it, like Heyman, as we said, is probably one of the most important parts of this, at least until they get Roman back. But yeah, like I think they're going to have to do some work to get over with the fans, and I think we'll see how Tanga Loa does it now. Because yeah, like they've put him kind of in that third role now, and that's just kind of how you have to find ways to keep pushing these guys and make them feel important. And like we said, we'll see what happens with Jacob Fatu. And yeah, I mean, heel or not, the Samoan wrestlers are really badass, and I think Jacob Fatu is probably the biggest badass of the bunch, and that's why I'm very intrigued now what they do with him given this new development. This was the surprising one, like we weren't expecting this one. So now what's the plan for Jacob Fatu, which I'm sure they've had it all along, but what's the plan now? Like, how do we pivot from here? Because they can still get the numbers advantage somehow, like we said, because Roman coming back is still a while away. And sounds like Jimmy the case too. We talked about his injury and all that. So, yeah. So, Cole, we should have got you in the building somehow in France as well with Sam. So, this is great. Like, I wish we could do like just a live. I wish we could get Irish Sam on the live stream here and just have him stream live from outside the building. Like, that would be the visual. Like, that's what we need to really have, kind of the really good stuff here. The only kind of coverage we can provide here at Wrestling Reaction. But, yeah, hey, appreciate you watching. Yeah, wonderful show. Man, as I said, crowd can always elevate a show, and I thought they did that here. But a lot of good in-ring action, too, and a lot of good kind of development storyline. How about the King of the Ring stuff? I'm sure you guys saw that, the announcements for the King of the Ring matches. Man, some really good matches coming up on Raw. Gunther and Sheamus, one-on-one. Oh, my. You've got Ricochet, Ilya Dragunov. You've got Drew McIntyre, Finn Balor. You've got Kofi Kingston, Rey Mysterio. On the women's side, I'm trying to remember. I think it was Baszler and Zelina Vega, Natalya and someone. I can't remember off the top of my head. You got Valkyria and Asuka, I think. That's a really good match. So, yeah, like, I mean, these are good matches. Like Kairi Sane maybe and Natalya, is that right? So, yeah, the King of the Ring matches, too. Like, it's not just this Backlash. We're going into Raw. Raw should be a great show with some of those matches that they're going to have. So, yeah, this the time difference. I always have to check on these because I'm like, I think it's this, and then usually it's like 1 hour later, 1 hour earlier, and I never remember if I'm right. So, yeah, that's right. Hey, 11,000 sounded like 100,000. It really did. Like that's the impressive part too, is you think about how many people were actually in the building, and it just felt like such a bigger occasion, right? So yeah, I mean, here it is. Like, yeah, I mean, it's like I'm loving the commentary here from Irish Sam. Yeah, like that was something. Like I'm sure you will, Irish Sam, but definitely when you go back and watch this and you just see kind of the presentation and how, I mean, it was next level type stuff. Next level. just keep following the comments. We got Irish Sam just singing in the comments. This is tremendous stuff. So, yeah. Well, hey, on the new Bloodline members, they feel like generic Roman Reigns rejects. Well, like I said, they've got some work to do. I mean, the good news is like they already have Solo. If they were trying to do this like completely new, where you bring in like 3 new guys or whatever, that's a challenge. But at least you kind of have Solo, who's already established. He can kind of bring things along a little bit. He's not the Romans level or anything like that. But I think that, oh yeah, by the way, I'm going to get back to this in a second. But you guys tell me too. So I know they're announcing WrestleMania. They're announcing it like probably right now or at least very soon. So if you guys see that announcement, I've got Twitter opened up and all that right now. But I assume we're about to get the announcement. It's going to be in Las Vegas. That seems to be the common thought right now. So if for some reason it's not, you guys let me know. But I'm going to assume they're about to make the announcement. That's going to be in Vegas. And I also know the Backlash press conference is going on, which I'll catch up on after this. But back to this, yeah, like I said, they're going to have to get, Tanga Loa over definitely now that he's the new member of the group. And that's what you want. Like, you want to make each member feel like they bring something unique to the table. Although it seems like they're gonna team up the tag team in the Guerrillas of Destiny now and put them together just as, again, it makes sense because that's probably going to be your match for the Usos at some point. But you definitely got to find a way to keep them feeling important and special now without Reigns there. And that's where Heyman, I think, is going to continue to be the driving force of this thing. Not even just Solo. Like, it's going to be Heyman's going to have to drive this thing with all of his reactions and everything like that. We'll see. Like, where do they go next? Do Orton and KO still have unfinished business with them after this? I would think there's a little bit of that for sure. And then who else gets involved? Like, who are the next people to get involved here with this thing? So, so we'll find out. But yeah, still just I'm still just reading the comments here from Irish Sam. I'm sure, like, you could consider what it was inside the arena. I'm sure outside the arena right now is something. So, Irish Sam, you need to get on Twitter or something and just give me a stream that I can connect and play here or something. But yeah, the dominant women's tag team champions, yeah, Bianca and Jade, they're going to hold the titles for a long time because right now it's like, if you had to pick a team right now that was going to dethrone them at some point, does that team even exist? Because I don't know who that would be. To me, it's like we're a long way away from them ever losing these tag team titles because I don't know who's going to dethrone them. Now, of course, you could always just pick a team and interference or one turns on the other and you're like, okay, well, that's the reason they lost. But this is a dominant duo, the likes of which, like, maybe we haven't seen in the women's division ever, if not for a long time. Like, they're going to hold these titles for a long little bit. And maybe that's where eventually, like I said, I don't know if Jade's ready yet. They have a better idea than I do, but we know we're going to get to that one-on-one match at some point with Bianca and Jay, but I don't think that's at least a year. WrestleMania 41, maybe, but even that may be too early. I don't know. So we'll find out. And keep in mind the Rhea injury, I think, maybe impacts things a little bit too in terms of some of those bigger matches they have planned for WrestleMania 41 next year. But I could definitely see Bianca versus Jade next year, but they got to make sure Jade's ready for that kind of one-on-one match, which is why teaming her with Bianca makes sense. So, yeah, so we'll see. But, all right. Oh, okay, so Motorhead, you got a little singing of Time to Play the Game. Okay, got to go, yeah. Sam, go enjoy it. I appreciate you checking in, but please, go enjoy this. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity here. So go have fun. Report back later with all of your extra notes from this thing, but I'm sure it's probably an incredible scene. So, all right, so just quickly here, Jordan, yeah, the announcement's going to be about WrestleMania 41. My guess is they're about to announce WrestleMania 41 is going to be in Las Vegas. I did the YouTube short thing, what was it, 2 days ago now? Triple H was teasing, he did the Twitter space or whatever, and he was teasing that they were going to have a WrestleMania 41 announcement very, very soon. And when he said that, I'm like, okay, that could literally mean tomorrow. But it sounds like it makes sense. They've kind of orchestrated this. They're announcing it during the Kentucky Derby or before the Kentucky Derby or whatever, which if you're not in the States, like that's the biggest, horse racing thing out there. And so on NBC, all of that stuff. So it's a big, big audience, like a massive audience. And I think that's the plan. They're going to announce this during that just to be able to, get the exposure and everything from it. But I think that someone mentioned too, I think it was WrestleVotes on Twitter. The last time they did this, the last time they set it up this way to announce it on NBC before one of the big horse races, it went to Vegas. It was announced SummerSlam for Vegas. So Vegas was kind of the big one there. So, yeah, there you go. All right, everyone throw up your ones for Sam on the way out with the live reports. But, yeah, so I think that's the announcement. By the way, they're definitely going to do that, and I'll keep this open. I'm not watching it right now, but I'll let some of you guys maybe tell me if you see the announcement made official on that soon enough. So the next Bloodline members, yeah, like one of 100 possibilities. But I mean, are they going to bring Haku in at some point? Like, give me Haku and Rikishi and all these guys. They were a former tag team. I don't think they're going to get back in the ring again. But I mean, Jacob Fatu is the one that makes the most sense next. Like we said, I think my prediction still is that The Rock's the one that's behind all this. But we know it's going to be a while before The Rock's back. And, obviously it's going to be a while before Roman's back and all of this. And so I think it's really just seeing how long they can keep this thing going, which they have to, without Roman, and what are the big matches. Like, there's a lot of combinations you can work with, right? And keep in mind, we did see the tease, right? With, Solo and the entire Bloodline kind of walking beside Jey, like, as they're going in the back there, which I thought maybe, okay, are they going to get involved? That was kind of one of my predictions. I thought maybe you get the Bloodline costing Jey the championship here. Didn't happen, but they at least set the table there for you, right? They reminded you, okay, we haven't forgotten about you, Jey. And so they just attacked Jimmy and all that. So, you got to introduce Jacob Fatu at some point, but clearly Tanga Loa was the next one in line, and now we'll see how this evolves from here, because now the Bloodline's at 3, and we'll see if they add Jacob Fatu as the 4th before you get kind of the reuniting of Jey and Jimmy and Roman and all that. At least that's the prediction. It could go a completely different way based on what they're doing right now. So, we'll find out. So, yeah, that's right. Heyman's facial expressions, I think, are going to sell this entire thing while the big guns are away, while Rock and Roman and they're away. So, yeah, I mean, Heyman's gonna tell everything with his facial expressions. That's the way Heyman's always been one of the best at that. And I think this is the perfect role for him, because he can really play into this now, knowing that he's basically scared for his life, but he also knows, and I thought it was very important, keep in mind, he kind of did the slip up, right, with Nick Aldis, where I had the conversation with him and he said, I haven't talked to Roman Reigns since WrestleMania. And of course, Aldis is like, wait a second. You said you talked to Reigns and pulled him out of the draft. And Heyman's like, no. I admit I'm the one who pulled Reigns out of the draft, because I was feared for him. Like, I didn't want him to be a part of this whole thing. And so that's where things get interesting. When is that first conversation had? How do they kind of put that into the story and all that? So I think that's interesting too. But yeah, Heyman's always got a plan. He's just got to work his way out of the situation he's in right now. So, all right, so Cody's at the press conference. Yeah, I'm curious to see. I'm sure Cody will have plenty of praise for the fans. He may be able to hear the fans over Cody at the press conference based on what Irish Sam said is going on outside. So, this is one of the problems, I think. I don't know if it's a problem necessarily, and this is why I was curious if you actually may have the Bloodline come out and go after Cody at some point, either after the main event or whatever, which I get why they didn't do that. But who's Cody's next big opponent? That's a good question. Like, I don't know who that next big opponent is. And look, I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I'm trying to think of the draft here, and I'm pulling up the SmackDown roster right now because I want to remember who's actually on this thing, because we know there wasn't a lot of movement on SmackDown. But, as I look at this, and I'm pulling it up now to make sure I have all these correct, but, I mean, who is the next big challenger? Like, I'm still scrolling, and I'm like, I just don't see. I mean, look, I told you guys, like, I think Randy Orton has to be one of those guys at some point. But is that now? I don't think that's right now. I mean, hey, Logan Paul is probably going to be on that list somewhere, maybe. I mean, you don't see him as a credible challenger. He's the United States champion, but, like, he's probably on. I mean, maybe they do the Cody-Logan Paul match at some point. I could see that happening. But really, when I keep going down, I'm like, I'm going to be honest with you guys. Like, it's Orton or it's the Bloodline. Like, that's about it in terms of, like, I guess you could always turn Owens heel or something. Yeah, I mean, LA Knight, I just don't. Do you really want to turn LA Knight heel right now? Although that's an interesting thought, because it's like, okay, LA Knight's not going to be the top cheered babyface as long as Cody's around. So do you kind of go that direction? Maybe. That would be something fresh, at least. Like, that would give you a fresh sort of feud that we haven't seen in a while or ever. I mean, in that kind of, landscape with Cody as the champion. So that's a possibility. But yeah, like on SmackDown, there's just not a lot. I mean, Carmelo, they had the match, but I don't think Carmelo's going after the championship right now or anything. And so I don't really see a lot, like in terms of what's next for Cody. And I think even saw a report out there, maybe it was the Observer or something, I don't know, but about how they didn't really have any great, I don't know if it was great challengers, but however they worded it, lined up until like The Rock and Roman came back. So they didn't have like those big stories for Cody until The Rock and Roman came back. And let's be honest, if that's the case, that's not good, because that's always been like the biggest challenge for WWE, like during the Vince era and all that. Like it was when you finally got the conquering hero that finally got what he wanted, right? He finally got the championship. You didn't know where to go after that. And I mean, based on this roster, I don't know. Like they're gonna have to elevate some people to be able to do that. And look, this is an interesting thought. Like maybe you do just go this direction. But I think I don't know if he can turn Orton right now, but I think that's easily the biggest match that Cody would have based on who's on SmackDown right now. But otherwise, I don't see a lot of options unless you get him back into the Bloodline story. So, yeah, it's a good point, and I think that's definitely something we have to ask ourselves coming out of this. So, yeah, we'll see. So, yeah, I think Jade. I think it's interesting because I think seeing Bianca too as the one that turns could be fascinating. So we never really seen Bianca as a heel in this in this setting. And so that's also an interesting thought. I'm curious if they go that route at some point and maybe have Jade as the one that's cheered more. I don't know, because you can see Bianca, she certainly has the swagger and the edginess to her, just like Jade does, and so based on their characters, so it could be interesting. So yeah, happy Saturday. Yeah, it's been a good one for WWE fans, I think. Good backlash and some interesting stuff coming out of this, and we'll see, like we said, what kind of the next steps are on each brand, because now we got the official draft split is in place, so we've got the roster set and all that. We already got a big Raw lined up, as we said, with the King of the Ring matches that are going to take place. So huge Raw coming up with these matches. My prediction stayed the same, even though I've seen some of the first round matches. I still think Gunther should be the one to win the King of the Ring, because I think there's a lot they can do with that. But yeah, I think it's gonna be a lot of fun either way, though, because like we said, we got some big matches coming up. McIntyre and Balor, and that's the thing. When you put McIntyre in this, I don't know. Could you put Gunther and McIntyre as the final, and maybe Gunther beats McIntyre, maybe via CM Punk again? Like maybe Punk just keeps costing McIntyre everything he wants, and that gets us at some point to that match whenever Punk's ready to turn. But yeah, so we'll find out. But all right, let's see what else we got. Yeah, I think Bianca turning is. I would be interested to see Bianca turn, maybe more so than I would Jade, because I think Bianca would probably be better suited, given that she's been in WWE for the longer time, right? Jade still feels new. She still feels kind of, she's new and people want to cheer. Not to say they don't want to cheer Bianca, but Bianca can kind of use that, Jade coming in, trying to take her spot and all this, like she can use that to her advantage, like if she does decide to turn. And so, or maybe Jade's the one that costs them the championship somehow, and that pisses Bianca off, and she's like, I'm done here. So, that's always a possibility too. But, yeah, so we'll see what happens there with that. All right, guys, what else you got here? We won't stay on too much longer. As I said, I'm still working on keeping my voice back. It goes in and out. It's just like this seasonal allergy type stuff just gets me for a couple weeks each year, like during this. So, yeah, and as we know, outside the building, people are still going wild in Lyon, France right now, including Irish Sam. And, yeah, letting us know what they think about this Backlash show. Lots of fun stuff. So I also saw on Twitter that one of the common themes was like, well, we got to go back to shows now in America where people are just going to chant "what" the entire time. So amazing that "what" chant has lasted 20 plus years now. Steve Austin had no idea what he was doing at the time when he did this. So yeah, I think they have been kind of teasing Bianca a little bit more of that character personality is kind of coming out a little bit more doing this. Yeah, another good question, like who eventually beats Bayley? You guys know my thoughts on this. I think Tiffany Stratton is about as good as they've had for someone of that age, of whatever. Like she she has everything you need. And I think, here's my early prediction, which I'm going to do a video on this too. I was already thinking about this. But early prediction for women's Money in the Bank, I think it's Tiffany Stratton. Because why? Sure, you give it to someone else, but I think Tiffany Stratton, when you give her that, you've already seen, like, again, think about how the crowds have reacted to her. Elimination Chamber, Backlash, now, even WrestleMania. Like, they want to cheer her. And she is in no way like your cheerable, sort of babyface, right? Like, she is the heel, but they are all in on her. And when that happens, here's what you do, right? You strap the rocket and you go. Like, you hit go and you're out of here. Like, that's what you do. Take off. Like, that's what you got to do. So I think they give her the Money in the Bank because then fans are always waiting for it at that point. They're like, all right, we know she's about to get this moment. And if we hear that music hit, we are going to lose our minds because we know this is it, right? And I think that's what you do. Give her the Money in the Bank whenever she beats Bayley or whoever else. Maybe that's months from now. There's no rush, really. But I think she's it. Like, she's the next one in line probably, unless they give it to someone else before that. Charlotte, I guess, is still out there. She's got to return at some point. But Tiffany and Charlotte next year's WrestleMania, I think it would be interesting. As long as Tiffany wins. So I think that would be a very interesting match. So, yeah, Tiffy time. It's Tiffy's time. I don't think there's any question about that. I said this, guys, like, I don't feel like I'm exaggerating when I say, like, she's like face of the company type person. Like, not this year, but like, maybe 5 years from now or whatever. Like, she can be that big of a star, I think. And then, obviously, she's got a great look and all this, but like, she gets it from like the personality, character stuff. That's always important when you're trying to pull this off. So, yeah, I agree. She's going to be the champ at some point soon. So, yeah, hey, Corbin, thanks for joining. Yeah, I thought it was a great show. And like I said at the start, I thought it was, the crowd elevated this in what looked like kind of I think some people thought this was a little bit of a lackluster show on paper, but WWE PLEs always usually deliver in this era at least. And yeah, I thought it was really good. I mean, the opener, as I said, 40 minutes of just mayhem. You got a new Bloodline member, and then, of course, you had the one title change with the women's tag titles. Main event was outstanding. And then even the triple threat on the women's side was good. And so, yeah, Priest and Jey I thought was good, and you kind of furthered the story there with Priest and the, kind of the tension with Balor and JD and all that. So, yeah, I thought they accomplished a lot on this show for sure. So, yeah, they did. So, man, it's something. So, Dom, so we were talking about Dom, yeah. Dom's got to get something. Look, Dom and Liv right now, something going on with him. And so I think that's interesting that they've done that. Of course, you saw the little tease, was that on last week's Raw, where something's going on, at the center in focus. In the background, you've got Dom and Liv walking out of the same locker room or whatever, kind of, at different times. And I think they're definitely playing this up where, like, they're gonna make Liv Dom's mommy for now until the real mommy comes back. And so I think that's an interesting direction to go with. And of course, Dom's also injured, right? Keep that in mind. Dom is, he's got some kind of injury. I don't remember if they said he needs surgery. I think they said that, but I don't know exactly how long he'll be out. But yeah, so Dom gonna be shelved for a bit. But Dom's someone you can use too. Without the wrestling is not even that important for Dom, right? Like because he's people just love to boo him. You can put him out there. He doesn't have to wrestle ever, and he's still getting, he's still getting over because he's Dom, right? So, yeah, for sure. So, all right, we'll get to some more stuff here. Again, guys, if you're just hopping in for the first time, let me know your thoughts on Backlash. We've discussed it here for about 40 minutes so far, but let me know your thoughts if you are jumping in for the first time here in the stream. And as always, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button too. That helps out the channel. Allows me to do more videos for you guys, which, again, I know I haven't done as many as I usually do over the past several weeks, but I've had just allergy stuff, voice has been in and out, it's been a mess. But we're having fun here on the Backlash reaction stream. Yeah, Tiffany Stratton, she's got the look, character, ring skills. Yeah, she's got it all. Definitely agree with you there. Yeah, Gabe, crowd was amazing. There's no other way to put it. Like, they were on another level. I mean, again, it's the highest grossing arena show WWE's ever done. I'm sure those prices were not cheap. We'll get Irish Sam to give us the full rundown of those maybe at some point soon on another stream. But yeah, it was good stuff. And look, there wasn't a lot of matches on the card. And I think sometimes you have to. That's not going to be everybody's preference because you're going to have these long video packages, and some other stuff that's kind of like, filler, I guess you could say. But it is what it is. I mean, they're not going to load every show up anymore unless it's like one of the big four, probably with 9 or 10 matches. That's just not the way they do things now. Wasn't, I thought, the greatest card on paper, but they made the most of it, and I thought delivered a really good show that will be remembered probably for some good matches, but it will be remembered for the crowd. Like, that will be the biggest memory from the show, probably. Unless Tanga Loa goes on to be the new tribal chief. Then we'll remember that. All right, let's see what we got here. Yeah, so I'm glad you brought this up. You guys know I've been pushing for the longest time that I think Cody and The Rock could happen at SummerSlam. Now I don't know, though, because I've started to backtrack a little bit on that. Because, of course, I made that thought and prediction right when we were going into WrestleMania 40, because I was thinking, okay, this is how it's going to play out. Rock's going to pin Cody. Cody wins the title. You're set up. SummerSlam's your next big show. They did the thing right afterwards on Raw. All right, everything's set, right? But I'm telling you guys, here's why I think this is going to get interesting and why they may not do it there anymore. If they do make this announcement that WrestleMania 41 is going to be in Las Vegas, where did this whole thing with Rock and Cody start? It started in Las Vegas. And I think they love that kind of stuff. Like, they love the little long story threads where you can go back to that and say, here's where it all started. They got plenty of material to work with. Everything started, the slap heard around the world, happened in Las Vegas. Well, now we go back for WrestleMania 41. Here's the match, The Rock and Cody Rhodes. And of course, my thought is, you've got to do Rock and Roman, and you also got to do Cody and Roman. I mean, I am starting to wonder, they may actually stretch this thing out for the next 2 years, where you do Rock and Cody next year, you do Rock and Roman the following year. But the problem with that, as we said, is The Rock's just going to keep getting older, right? He's not getting younger. And, Roman's also not going to be a full-time guy by that point, 2 years from now. So, can you really wait that long on it? You could always do a Rumble match and a WrestleMania match, I guess, but those are 2 WrestleMania main event level matches. And so maybe that's how they see it. Maybe they're like, hey, these are WrestleMania main events, and we are going to do both of them, and we're just going to hope The Rock can do both of them. Because now he's a TKO board member, his schedule can be a little bit more, we can maneuver it a little bit more if we need to. And so maybe that's it. So I really thought that they were going to go Cody, Rock at SummerSlam. I'm just not as sure now. And if they don't, that's where I think the Bloodline, I think Roman has to come back for SummerSlam if that's not the case, because I think you've got to have something big, right? Like, that's one of your biggest shows of the year. So that's where maybe you do something with Roman in this new Bloodline. Maybe you do Cody and Orton there. Maybe that's, your match. Because I think they're going to do Cody Gunther at, the Berlin show, which comes 3 weeks after SummerSlam, something like that. So I think that's probably, well, actually, they can't do Cody Gunther. I'm sorry, that was before that. So the draft, Gunther's still on Raw. Never mind. But they got to do something else there. But maybe Gunther's going to get a world title shot there. Let's put it that way. Of course, you guys know my prediction was, I kept thinking Gunther was going to move to SmackDown because I thought they wanted to do Cody and Gunther at some point. But maybe, as part of Gunther's King of the Ring win, he can basically declare and say, hey, I am the King of the Ring. I should get an opportunity at anybody I want. And maybe then he's able to challenge Cody and say, all right, I don't care what brand I'm on. I'm the King of the Ring, and I get to challenge anybody I want. Maybe that's how it works out. So, yeah, and look, here's a great question. I don't know. I think it's kind of what we talked about earlier, right? It doesn't seem like there's a lot of great challengers out there. And so I'm like, I don't think Cody's going to hold the belt until next year at this time. But I'm like, who's going to beat him? Like, I don't see a lot of great options unless, like I said, it's Orton. They're not going to put the title on Solo, are they? I don't know. Like, I don't think so. But that's the thing, is like on SmackDown right now. No, here's what I think happens. If that scenario plays out like I just said, Gunther wins King of the Ring. Somehow they allow Gunther to challenge Cody. I think Gunther beats Cody. I think that could be how it plays out. Because if you're going to put Gunther versus Cody in Berlin, like I said, remember, we have to add in the stipulation that somehow Gunther's able to get that opportunity. WWE, they can work around the rules of the draft. But as King of the Ring, Gunther beats him in Berlin. Like, that's a huge moment right there. Now, what do you do with Cody from there? That's a good question. But I'm telling you guys, I just don't see a lot of legitimate options right now to beat Cody. That Roman's not going to beat him when he comes back. I just don't think that's going to be the case. Realistically, it's like, I think Gunther or The Rock are the only two, and even like people would lose their minds, I think, if The Rock beat Cody. But I don't know, maybe not. I don't know. Like, Rock's not a full-time guy, right? Like, so I don't know how Rock's not defending the title that much. So, yeah, I don't know, guys. Like, it's a really interesting, scenario WWE has here, because I don't think they really have many believable people that they build up to this point to beat Cody. In my opinion, I think your top three challengers, however you get there, is Rock, Gunther, and Orton. And again, you've got to work around The Rock not being there right now. You've got to work around Gunther being on another brand. Orton's there, but he's a babyface. So you've got, potential roadblocks for all three of them. So I feel like that's why it is much further away than maybe we would have initially thought. And as always, right, the chase is better than anything. And so Cody being the champion, I don't think he's going to have he's not going to have a Gunther-like reign. He's not going to have a Reigns-like reign. That's just not how you do it in professional wrestling. I just don't think you're going to see this be just the longest run ever for Cody. And so, yeah, I don't see it being the case. But it's an interesting question. I'm curious to see how our opinion on this changes over the next little while, because it's fair to wonder who is going to beat Cody if it's not The Rock at SummerSlam and they have to hold that match off for a long time. They got to get pretty creative until then, because they got to find some challengers. So, yeah, I mean, this is what it's all about. It's how do some of these talents evolve? Like we said, I mean, you've got to build up talent, and there are people out there maybe right now we're not even thinking of because they're not on that level yet. They could get there. So I don't know. We'll find out. But I'm intrigued by the Gunther idea if they find a way to pull that off, given the brand split and all that stuff. But I don't know. So we'll find out. Cody versus KO. I mean, that could be one. I thought about that earlier, actually, when someone was like, well, who's the next challenger? I'm like, well, it seems odd, but I'm thinking the Bloodline just beat the hell out of Cody or Owens and Orton. But I almost feel like you got to somehow turn one of those guys soon, because you need challengers. And like we said, if it's not LA Knight, you gotta have somebody that can step up to Cody. And like I mentioned a minute ago, I mean, I'll pull up the roster again unless I'm just overlooking someone. The way the roster looks right now, I mean, Nakamura's there. He's not at this point, he's not a legitimate, I think, title threat. I mean, I mentioned Logan Paul. I guess if he drops the U.S. title, like, that's a match Cody can have, but he's not somebody that's a threat to Cody. I mean, surely I don't think Waller and Theory are going to be in that discussion. Nothing. I just don't see it. But yeah, like, guys, if I go, I mean, Lashley's there, but I just don't, is that one that I think is, going to be that appealing? I don't know. Andrade's there and so forth. But yeah, like, the SmackDown roster it's not to the level of Raw, in my opinion. And so, yeah, there you go. MJF. There you go. Let's stop the discussion there. It's going to be MJF. Like, that's the only possible option, right? Nick Aldis might have to come back and give us a Cody and Nick Aldis match. So that may be our only option here. So I'm trying to think, is there anyone else out there that's not? I mean, we know Roman didn't get drafted, but is there anybody that didn't get drafted that there? I don't think of if anyone's out there that I'm just not thinking of on the draft front. Because even like Braun Strowman got drafted to Raw, so like he's back in. So yeah, I don't know, guys. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with Cody from here. Who's the next challenge? Give me your prediction in the comments. Who's the next person who faces Cody for the championship? Give me your prediction. It's not easy. It's not easy. So we'll find out. All right, let me get to a couple other things here. Yeah, so I asked my favorite wrestler of all time. That's a great question because, man, I will admit there for a long time there, man, I am more of a like old school type guy. So like I liked that era where you had like Randy Savage, Flair, guys like that. I always was just huge fans of those guys. Like Mr. Perfect, I always loved Mr. Perfect. So like that, the golden age of WWF, I guess you'd call them back then. Loved all those guys. Those were just kind of my guys, right? But as you start to morph into a new era, like everybody's either a Bret Hart or Shawn Michaels guy, right? Time for the big reveal. Hope I don't lose a lot of you guys when I give you my answer here. But I was always a big Shawn Michaels guy. So, love Bret Hart, though. As I go back and watch more Bret stuff, I'm like, my goodness, Bret was just on a different level. But Shawn was kind of always my favorite of that next era. of guys, I guess you could say. But I'll be honest, the more I go back and look at a lot of people, I think like Randy Savage is one of the best I've ever seen in terms of everything that he could do. And I would highly recommend anyone that goes back and just, if you want to just go back and watch anything Randy Savage did, especially kind of in that era where he was at his height. Oh my goodness. The more I look back, I'm like, there were not many people on, if anyone ever, that was on that level. I mean, the whole presentation, not just the in-ring stuff, but like the character, there's no one like him. And I think the more I look back at it, I'm like, man, he's in my top tier of whatever that, your Mount Rushmore, whatever you want to put it on. So, I don't know. But I was always a big Shawn Michaels guy. I'm not going to lie. Then of course, because I was a Shawn Michaels guy during that era, it morphed into being a Triple H guy because, the DX, all that stuff, and all that. But yeah, it was kind of that was my group for the longest time. So yeah, but there you go. So Squad Father agrees. Shawn greater than Brad. But again, the more I go back, yeah, like that's what I love about WWE Network, Peacock, all that. Like going back and watching some of these guys because you watch it in real time and you're just like, these guys were great. But the more you go back and watch it and you see how some of this stuff ages, some of it does not age well, as we know. But some stuff ages just tremendous. And by the way, speaking of that, I was randomly watching a 2005 episode of Raw yesterday. It was just one of the suggested ones. It's the one where Batista turns on Triple H, does the thumbs down thing, and he picks Triple H to face him at WrestleMania 21 instead of facing JBL and John Cena. Some stuff on that episode did not age well. And if you want to find it, I think it's the February 21, 2005 edition of Raw. Report back on what you think I mean by some stuff on that show did not age well. But that was a pretty interesting episode. All right, we'll get back to the stuff here. You guys know I like talking about the retro wrestling stuff. And by the way, I was going to do the Backlash 1999 review. I'm still working on it. My voice has not allowed me to talk for that long until now. So I'm going to get that going. But all right, let's see. Let's get back to, Squad Father's here for Bo Leave. Bo leaving soon. He'll be here. He's coming. Viable challengers to Cody, babyface at the moment. Yeah, Baron Corbin. So they did draft Corbin to SmackDown. Could they do like a rebirth of Baron Corbin there? Because, they split up Breakker and Corbin now. That would have been interesting if you put Breakker on SmackDown, which he was already there. But Breakker and Cody, that would have been interesting if they'd have given Breakker a shot at some point. But I think Breaker's on the rise. We'll see where he gets to at some point. But Cody versus Sammy, yeah, I mean, I guess that's the thing, right? Is because Sammy's still on Raw because you have the protected champions. But yeah, like that's the problem. Is like that's what threw me off. I understand why they did it, and probably it made more sense. But when they announced the draft rules and said they're protecting champions, I'm like, well, that changes some things. So what I'd love to see, and we can't get it because he's on SmackDown, or he's on Raw now, and he's got other business to deal with. But Cody versus this version of Chad Gable would be interesting. Now, I'm not saying Gable will win the title, but if you just talk about, hey, we got to find matches for Cody at some point. Cody and Gable would be fun, but I don't think we're gonna get that anytime soon. So, yeah. So, hey, I appreciate you joining, Corbin. Yeah, talk to you next time. Yeah, and join in, hit the subscribe button, turn on those notifications. So, yeah, be a lot of fun. Yeah, the Creamer promo from Macho Man, an unreal one. Like, I just, that's the thing. Like, when we talk about like the greatest of all time and all that, from like a match standpoint, like Flair's still hard to beat when I go back and watch Flair's matches. But my goodness, I think Savage had the overall all-time just tremendous. And like the Mega Power stuff too was, that's something else. You want to talk about storylines that the little details and everything that still holds up to this day, the Mega Power stuff was brilliant at the time. It really was. And it still is when you go back and watch it. So, all right. Yeah, I was thinking about that too during the match. So Randy went through the table and he was gone for a while. The way I was looking, I was like, who was it? Tama Tonga just went through the table like shortly before, and he came back in there. And of course, Tama Tonga got his back torn up when he went through the table. But yeah, like I think, yeah, Randy was kind of out of there for a little bit. But look, Randy's got back problems. It may have taken him 15 minutes to get back up. And that's what I thought was bad too. Randy gives the RKO. Who was it? Was it to Tama Tonga or was it to Solo? It was a Solo, I think, on the announce table, and that thing didn't break. And when Randy landed, it reminded me of like Shawn Michaels landing the casket match in The Undertaker or whatever it was. And someone just showed earlier too, like the Rick Rude clip where Rude hurts his back He lands on that thing in Japan when he's facing Sting. And when I saw that from Orton, I'm like, oh, man. And Corey Graves brought up on the commentary. He's like, this guy just came off a bad back injury, and that table didn't break. I'm like, ooh, I hope that didn't hurt Orton there. So, yeah, maybe that's why. He maybe need a few minutes to get back after that. But, yeah, Gable will be an interesting option. Like I said, there are times where I like the brand split, but there are other times where I'm just like, if you have yourself these kind of situations, just find a way to work around it. Like, give me a reason why you're doing it, and I'll be fine with it. I don't care. I don't need a hard brand split all the time. Just give me a reason Chad Gable wants to come to SmackDown to face Cody, and just give it to me. I'm not as stuck on the brand split as I used to be. I'm just like, you know what? I don't care. Give me the best product you can put on TV. I don't care if they're on Raw or SmackDown. And so, yeah, I'd be fine with that. 'Cause they may get to that point where they don't have a choice to start bringing some people over. Because again, when I look at this roster, I don't see a lot of options for Cody unless you start turning people, as we said, LA Knight, Randy Orton, Kevin Owens, so forth. So, thoughts here. Yes, Reigns will be. I mean, fans are already chanting for him. I think people are already, they want it. And that's like, it's the old adage, right? It's like, when you go away for a while, absence makes the heart grow fonder, right? And so now that Reigns doesn't have the championship, where people thought he was just kind of, holding that thing for the longest time and people want to see him lose it. Now that he's lost it, okay, we can like Roman again because he doesn't have that championship and Cody has it. So now when he comes back, it's going to be a little bit, he's going to be, because he's the one that now has to stop the bloodline. He has to, stop what he created, basically, because it's just gone, it's gone rogue here. And I also like the fact that Tanga and Solo are wearing the black and red. You guys know I joked it initially. I'm like, this is, Bloodline NWO versus Bloodline Wolfpack. Like, and, you got the Wolfpack here with Solo and Tanga and Tanga Loa now. So, yeah, Roman will be opposite them, and he'll be the cheered one for sure. So, about Shinsuke, yeah, I mean, look, Shinsuke and Cody have a history too, right? And so it's like, they could do that again, but that was so recent. I'm like, I don't think he can do that again right now, at least. And so, yeah, I mean, Nakamura, I don't mean this in the wrong way, but like, I would still say Nakamura's best match in WWE was probably the first one, right? And that was against Sami Zayn back in NXT. And that's not knocking him, because that was just, I still remember that match to this day. It was incredible. But I think, there were certainly times where the way they've used him, probably hadn't been the greatest either for him. But hey, he's still, it's wild to think how long he's actually been in the company now, right? He's almost been in WWE for a decade almost now, which is wild to think about, but it's true. And so, yeah, I still think he's certainly someone they like to use in some of these like upper mid-card type spots, but, are they building him as a credible world title challenger or anything to this point? I just don't think so. But yeah, he can still have good matches for sure. So, but I always think about the Sami and Nakamura one that they had in NXT. That was tremendous stuff. So without question. Yeah, the brand split, they still do it, but I'm not stuck on it as much as I really, at one point I was one of those guys where I'm like, hey, you got this brand split, stick to it. Now I'm like, I don't care. just put whoever you want on any show. I don't care. Just give me the best story, give me the best match. I don't care. Just give me whoever you want. Just give me a reason. Again, just give me a little tiny detail, right? You can say that Cody once, I don't know, whatever. Like, he accidentally knocked over Chad Gable's, bag or something, and knocked it off the locker room. All right, well, Gable's here to avenge his bag. Hopefully they wouldn't do that, but you get my point. Just give me any reason. I'll be fine with it. I think they've got to do the crossover challengers. Because, yeah, like the big matches, like I said, I think you've certainly got some big matches you've got to set up for SummerSlam, Money in the Bank, those kind of shows. Like, you're going to have some big matches there. But, yeah, like for now, I think it's just kind of, we'll see if they do bring some of those people over and feed to Cody or not. But, yeah, I mean, that's the thing is Nakamura's been placed in there the whole time. He's just kind of that guy that loses the big matches. And so, it's, unfortunately, when you get in that role, it's hard to get out of it. And that's kind of where he is at this stage of his career, and I just don't see him getting out of it. So, I don't either. I just don't see it. But, yeah, and I agree. Crowd was spectacular. One of the best crowds WWE maybe has ever had, other than just when you say Attitude Era and all this other stuff, but like this was, someone said earlier, it's like, 11,000 people felt like 100,000. Like that's just not something, and that's where WWE's masterful ability presentation-wise to make everything, come through. Like they didn't have much problem on that. Like the sound came through, everything was great. So, yeah, that's an interesting one. Seth and Cody has to happen at some point. I think that has to happen again at some point too. People were talking about too, does Seth come back as a heel and all this other stuff? I don't know how long we are away from Seth coming back. But, he is on Raw as well, and that's another one where it's like, okay, I'm thinking, man, this Raw roster, and we're going to see this on this week's Raw, is with the King of the Ring matches. It is stacked. Could they have not, maybe brought a couple more people over for Cody from that Raw roster? Because even if you just take 2 or something, that gets you to August maybe. I don't know, but we'll see. So, yeah, I mean, look, they could always run Cody and Carmelo back, but I think they still need to build Carmelo up a little bit more, maybe for that spot, and maybe don't want to put him in it right now, just, other than the fact that he's already lost to Cody, and I don't think he's winning the title yet, and so maybe you don't want to put him back in that role this quickly, but yeah, I mean, he could be someone that eventually is built up, in that spot, but I think he's probably, kind of on that longer trajectory, long-term kind of scenario. So, Peter asks, how to rate the Cody versus AJ match? I mean, look, I kind of, so I don't do the star ratings. I used to, I used to, be one of those that was just hardcore on, the star ratings for matches. But now, I rate matches based on, all right, would I recommend this? Yes, I would recommend it. Do I think it's must-see? That's the next kind of level. Or is it, legendary, one of the best matches ever? I think that, Cody AJ is probably, that's a must-see match for me. You got to watch it because it's not just the story they're telling. It's also, like I said, the crowd part of this. And I thought, that's a must-see match in my opinion. Whatever you want to rate that as, from if you want to do star ratings or whatever. But I kind of like to keep it 3 levels. Hey, I'd recommend this, or one of the levels I probably wouldn't. It's just a basic match, and you don't have to see it. But either recommend, go out of your way to see it, must see, you got to see it, or legendary. What are you doing? Stop what you're doing right now and go see this thing. Some people may put it on that level right now, but like I said, the challenge they were always going to have is that AJ you didn't think AJ could win the title, but I thought they did a good job of having a good enough match, and the crowd was engaged to the point, like we said, just ridiculous. So it made it feel bigger, and that always helps for sure. So, yeah, but I always appreciate you jumping in here, Peter, as well. So, all right, guys, we're going to hop off here shortly. Like I said, finally getting back to doing the live stream. I've been going an hour. Try to save some of my voice to do some more videos, looking at the fallout from Backlash and all that. But if you guys have enjoyed this live stream, do me a favor, hit the like button on your way out. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. And, yeah, we'll have a lot of stuff on the fallout from Backlash here. Our WrestleMania 41 announcement is coming soon. If it hasn't been made already, I don't know. I'm not watching it right now. But I'm sure we'll have some stuff coming out of the press conferences as well. And then a big Raw taking place on Monday. A lot of big King of the Ring matches going down. So we'll have those covered too. May try to do something, for a Raw reaction Monday night. Don't know yet for sure. The week-to-week shows can be a little difficult, but we definitely do these for the PLEs. So again, I appreciate you guys watching as always. Yeah, leave your thoughts on Backlash on the way out, and always enjoy the discussion. Thanks, as always, for watching, guys, and I'll talk to you again here soon at Wrestling Reaction.